Hi, this is Zachariah of the show. I'm making another video, and this is going to be one of my dive-ins on my Wrestlemania top 5 list. And one I want to talk about first is Wrestlemania 35. I was going to talk about Wrestlemania 17 first, because that's the number 5 spot, and I like to go from bottom to top. But I figure that one will be better if I rewatched it. Like in a video of that dive-in, I'll just do a rewatch and comment on it as I'm watching it. But for now, WrestleMania 35 I'm going to start with, because that I have a personal experience going to. And it's something that I never thought I'd ever be able to do, because WrestleMania never happens in Wisconsin. The best thing that I've gone to for WWE in Wisconsin, where I live, is the Elimination Chamber in 2012. And I figured, since I've already been there, that the only other place to go would be WrestleMania. I went by myself. I was going to take 2 other people with me if I could. I was working at Target Distribution Center at the time, and I was making more money than I ever did before. And so I had the stupid money, and in October of 2018, I decided to go for it, and I purchased 3 tickets for WrestleMania 35, like so many months in advance. And I know they sell out quickly, and this is I consider this my like AJ Styles-esque story, because I took a chance on myself by doing this. Things like this, great things like this, don't end up happening for me, and so this is a great story. And it came a week before WrestleMania, after the last Raw, before Go Home Raw episode. After that, I realized that I was going. I totally forgot that I was going until then, because even though I bought the tickets, I just didn't expect to actually end up going. I'll just have the tickets and that'll be it. And so my mom, once I realized that, oh yeah, I have tickets to this, I really want to go, I had to tell my mom, I don't even think she knew about it till then. And I told her, like, I want to go to this, and I'm going to drive if I have to in my Volkswagen. And she said, no, you got to take a flight, and because that's ridiculous. I mean, I was going to do it, but she stepped in, and that is probably the best parenting advice she ever gave me. I just found out this year how lucky I was to take a flight instead of driving, instead of going through the Pennsylvania Turnpike and spending all the money on tolls, and 13 hours there and back would have killed me. But luckily, I did go online. I purchased a flight ticket with Delta Airlines, and the morning of August 6th, my mom drove me to the MKE International Airport, where I got on a plane, one of the Delta Airline planes, and they flew me to Atlanta first. This is my first time flying. And I go to Atlanta, which is the greatest airport in the world, the biggest. And I spent 2 hours there. And then I took another flight to Newark Airport, the worst airport in the country, possibly the world. And when I got to Newark, I was just I was in cloud nine the whole time, because I was thinking about what I was about to see and experience, personally and business-wise, when it came to the WWE show. Wrestlemania 35 was on April 7th, and that morning I went down to the breakfast lounge or bar area to eat breakfast, and they had the Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant WrestleMania 3 highlighted on the TV, and that got me really excited. A great way to start the day. And I forgot that I don't have a ride there yet. I somehow figured that the shuttle was going to take me there. Took me from the airport to the hotel I was staying at. And I realized that's not going to happen. If I don't get a taxi or something, I'm not going to make it. There's no sidewalks there. It's all highway. And so I go up to my room and I call a cab like I'm Nico Bellic from GTA 4. And the cab comes and I hop in. And he drives me all the way to MetLife Stadium. And I was supposed to have a rental car when I got there, but because I wasn't 25 yet and I didn't really have an official driver's license at the time, I only had my temp's permit, I think, or whatever, that probationary license. That's what it was. And so because of those reasons, I couldn't obtain my rental car that I ordered before flying there. And but that was actually a miracle in disguise, because I just got to sit back and let the ride take me. And I got to drink it all in as I was on my way to MetLife Stadium. This is my first time being in a football stadium, and it's a new one, fairly new. It's only one WrestleMania that happened there before, and that was WrestleMania 29. So I pull up to, the cab pulls up to the MetLife Stadium parking lot, and I hop out, and there's a lot of people there, obviously, and bumping Superstars entrance music, and I see the posters everywhere of WrestleMania. I see Busted Open podcast with Dave LaGreca and Bully Ray, Mark Henry, and Tommy Dreamer advertised, and that was before I ended up actually listening to it. A little while later, probably a year or two later, I started actually listening to Busted Open. But that was my first glimpse of it that I didn't know about. Because I just remember. Okay. Anyway, moving on. While I'm in the parking lot, they have the little WWE shop posted up there, and I decide I'm gonna get a souvenir. And I don't have it with me right now because I like to keep it at home I'm not at home right now because there's too many distractions. But I bought my first WWE replica belt, the WWE Championship, the black and gold one, that was relevant at the time, and almost $500 I threw down on that because that was the first time I ever got to hold a replica WWE Championship belt. And prior to that, I had a kid's belt when I was young. That was the silver ECW Championship that I loved. But now I finally got my hands on a real replica. And it was heavy and big. And, people gave me a little bit of ribs from walking back in line with it. Excuse me. And then, I got grandpa and grandson behind me, and I had a good conversation with them and on their experiences with wrestling and all. And so that was pretty cool. And we get into MetLife Stadium, and the only thing I can think of is to find my seat, because the seats I purchased were behind the big screen. So it wasn't the best. I was expecting to at least be able to see at the corner of my eye the entrance screen, because that's obviously a big thing, big feature in WWE and pro wrestling, is to see the entrance screen and the ramp, and but I think this is actually a unique spot. Because I never got to see a show from that angle before. And even though I was kind of bummed out at first, as the night went on, I got used to it, and I was like, this is pretty dope. And so the pre-show, actually a little bit of background is, before I decided to even go to Wrestlemania in October, the whole summer prior, I was busy catching up on the 4 years of absence as a fan. Because like midway after WrestleMania 28, I decided to break off from watching WWE for reasons I will explain in another video. But basically, I was just afraid to see what was going to happen to that business after WrestleMania 28, and I didn't want to see it. So I spent the summer of 2018 catching up on Hulu, watching every Monday Night Raw, SmackDown, and some of NXT. Not a whole lot of NXT, but just enough so I could know Aleister Black and Ricochet, because they had just debuted when I got back into it, and I was so excited to see them that I had to learn about them from that. And so come WrestleMania pre-show, started with a Cruiserweight Championship match between Tony Nese, the challenger, and Buddy Murphy, the champion. Actually, at that time was, I think, the longest reigning Cruiserweight champion, and that was in the 205 Live promotion subcategory of WWE that I did not even touch as I was reviewing and doing my homework, because there's just so much, and I skipped over that part up till then. I went back eventually and started watching some, but after that, so I could learn. But that was my first time learning about Tony Nese and Buddy Murphy, and it was cool because Tony Nese won it for the first and only time in his career, and that match was pretty cool. And then we had the women's battle royal that Carmella ended up winning, which is very awesome because she was the first ever SmackDown Women's Champion. I was really thinking Asuka was going to win that because it was at least a pre-show, and I know she didn't really get didn't get treated well since going to the main roster from NXT, where in NXT she was undefeated. She actually ended up having to hand down the title when she left NXT because she never lost it before moving up to the main roster. And when she moved up to the main roster, they killed that streak, and I was hoping at least in the pre-show that they would give her finally give her a win, but no, Carmella ended up winning, which I still love that match. And then we had the Braun Strowman, Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal with those two SNL guys, and the Hardy Boys were featured in that, and that was awesome. After that, the show finally started with Alexa Bliss and Hulk Hogan starting it off. Hulk Hogan was featured in the main event of the first ever WrestleMania. He's a legend in the industry. And the first match was with Brock Lesnar and Seth Rollins for the Universal Championship, a David and Goliath match. That was probably the first time a world championship was ever defended in the first match of WrestleMania. Seth Rollins won. Got everybody excited. You know, it was a split decision amongst the fans. You know, people were saying either Brock was going to win, destroy, and conquer, he always does, or Seth was going to get the win by a cheap shot, hit the groin, and get a curb stomp and win. And so there was no one opinion that was amongst the crowd. It was a split decision amongst the crowd, and so Seth ended up winning. And then we had the AJ Styles and Randy Orton match, which was really awesome because we had the bred and born son of Bob Orton that got nothing but WWE experience. You know, started at the top, whereas AJ Styles was the greatest superstar outside of WWE, and we all wanted to see him make it to WWE and make a big statement, and that's actually what kind of got me back into WWE when I found out that he came in and debuted. And so we pretty much have the outsider versus the chosen son, Randy Orton. And so that was a good back and forth match. And I was expecting Randy to win because even though AJ Styles is so good, he just, when it comes to the grander stage of them all, and a guy like Randy Orton, it just came up short. I mean, either guy could have won, but at the end of the day, Randy Orton would have won it, in my opinion. But AJ Styles won, and I think that was phenomenal. And then we had, I think, the SmackDown Men's Championship. It was a fatal four-way between Usos, The Bar, and I forgot the third group. I know that memory kind of of the third group kind of fades out, and then there's Ricochet and Aleister Black, who I was really excited for. Those are the guys who I learned from NXT, and they're like Batman and Robin, so they kick ass, and they do things like, Jason Statham would do, or something like a superhero would do in an action movie. And they all 8 competitors got their shit in. I want to say, maybe it was Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. I want to say it was the third men's team in that match. And yeah, they all got their stuff in, and they all got to see the Black Mass by Aleister Black. His entrance is one of the coolest entrances I've ever seen. And Usos end up retaining, which I think they all won that night. It was such a good match. Very exciting. And then we had the women's tag team championship match. That was a first because there's never been a women's tag team championship before that I knew of. I mean, I think there was some. I think I heard of something about there being women's championships like that in like the 80s or something, but that is a little fuzzy. But as far as WWE is concerned, that was the first time that they featured women's tag team championships at Wrestlemania or in general. And it was between the Iconics, Tamina Snuka and Nia Jax, Natalya and Beth Phoenix, accompanied by Bret Hart, and the challengers Sasha Banks and Bayley, the Boston Hugs Connection. They were the defending champs, but they ended up losing to the Iconics, who stole the win, because they're the heels. And I love the Iconics. I think they were great. I was really happy for them, and we got to see the titles change for the first time at WrestleMania and in general. So, shout out to them, Iconics. And then we had John Cena with the Dr. Thugonomics theme, with Walk with Elias. That was really funny. And then we had the Kofi Kingston Daniel Bryan WWE Championship match. Daniel Bryan being the champion. Kofi Kingston turning WrestleMania into Kofi Mania, the second time I think in history that the name WrestleMania was changed from WrestleMania to the character's name. And we had Hulkamania, and now we have Kofi Mania. And because he won the title that night, and that was something that a lot of the WWE Universe never thought that they'd be able to see, because Kofi Kingston's career was so bleak for a while. He won championships, and he was a great in-ring competitor, but and he had one chance against Randy Orton in 2009, but failed. And so this was his one more chance kind of thing, and he made it. He made it work. He made it count. And the world was cheering. And I started my wrestling fandom. I started watching around when he first started. So, shortly after he started. I'll get into that in another video. But yeah, Kofi ended up winning with a New Day and his family in the ring. Such a feel-good moment. I was so glad to be a part of that. And then we have Kurt Angle, the greatest in-ring competitor. Okay, no, Shawn Michaels is the greatest in-ring competitor, but I mean, Kurt Angle is in the top 5 probably, and he's a legit gold medalist of wrestling in the Olympics. That's what got him fame. And then I got to see his last match in WWE against Baron Corbin, who, man, people gave Corbin so much crap. I felt so sorry for him because he doesn't make those decisions. The backstage, Vince McMahon approves those matches, and the superstars go out and do it. The ball ends with Vince, and I feel like at that point you guys just gotta trust that Vince has the best interest in heart. And I mean, Baron Corbin has a great gimmick. The wolf character, the black and gold, the entrance music. I love his entrance music. I do wish he'd never have at least got rid of his original entrance, because that was dope. I mean, his way he shined like a wolf in the moonlight. He had a really cool entrance when he first started NXT, and then he got rid of it or something. And he definitely looked better when he started than he did, I say, in WrestleMania 35. I don't like the bald look and the, lack of actual wrestling attire, more like a managerial type of look. And because he wasn't the official manager of Monday Night Raw, but he was like a manager, and they put on a good performance, I thought. You gotta think, Kurt has so many injuries and surgeries that you can't expect him to put on a 5-star grade A performance at that time. Like, no, he's done his part. It was just his time to sign off, and I think he did it well. The fireworks and music of Kurt Angle. I gotta say that, Kurt Angle wasn't really a guy I thought of as my favorites. Coming up as a fan, I always thought of Triple H, I always thought of The Rock, I always thought of Stone Cold and Hulk Hogan, The Undertaker. I never really thought of Kurt Angle all that much. And after that night, I kind of had so much more respect for him. And especially when I thought of his work in TNA too. You gotta respect the man. And then, I listen to his podcast every once in a while. And after that, we had the Triple H versus Batista. That was the last time. I think that was the last time Batista had a match in WWE and at WrestleMania. It was his last match too. That it wasn't really announced, but it was, because I don't think he's wrestled again since then. I don't think he plans on it, because he's let his body go down. Like, he went from, looks like in Batman Forever, when Bane gets, oh, maybe not, oh, not forever, Batman and Robin with George Clooney, when Robin kicks off the tubes of Bane and he shrinks back down. You know, that's kind of what Batista reminds me of now. But anyway, that was an awesome thing to see, because that just happened within like a month or two, like very short time before WrestleMania. And I think that's what got me to forget that I was going, was because that happened so fast. And I was so into that I forgot, oh wait, I'm going to see that. And so I got to see Dave Batista versus Triple H. Shawn Michaels is there commentating, and we had Ric Flair, and Triple H got the victory. And I think that was also Triple H's last WrestleMania match, and he won. He's not, his streak at WrestleMania is, he's lost more than he's won. And so it's cool to see him get that win. His entrance was pretty cool with the bike and everything. But I gotta tell you, I wish that Triple H didn't alter his entrance at WrestleMania like he does, or did, because his standard entrance is awesome. You know, that where he stands at the ring, or at the entrance stage, and that steam is just flowing up through his body. That is an awesome shot. I was really hoping to see that. But, you know, as you learn over the years, he doesn't go with that all the time at WrestleMania. He changes it. But, you know, it's still very awesome to see him. And I respect him. So, it's pretty cool. And then we had a Intercontinental Championship match between the Demon, Finn Balor, versus Bobby Lashley, the champion. That was the last time we've seen the Demon, Finn Balor, at WrestleMania. He came out and then he only came out as the Demon one more time after that. And that was against Roman Reigns. I think the Royal Rumble one year. And that was a disaster. But this night was the Demon Finn Balor's night, because he came out with that entrance, and he ended up winning the title, the Intercontinental Championship, for the last time since. Sorry, I'm getting hot. So that was the match before the main event. Was the Demon Finn Balor versus Bobby Lashley for the Intercontinental Championship. And then the main event, Ronda Rousey, the Raw Women's Champion, versus Charlotte Flair, Ric Flair's daughter, and Becky Lynch, who is going by the Man now at this time. Big long story with that, but it basically happened after Survivor Series. And that was the first time women got to main event the WrestleMania, which is huge. Very huge, because women have been, for decades, have been, possibly even a century, been scratching and clawing their way to be better than the boys. And main event at WrestleMania, we already had Lita and Trish Stratus, main event of Raw. And that was groundbreaking. This is extraordinary. Groundbreaking. Sorry, I have a nose congestion. I think Ronda came out first, and then we had Charlotte coming out of the helicopter. That was really cool. And then we had Becky come out, and no one knew what to expect, man. I think everyone, if anything, had to say that Ronda was just gonna kick the crap out of both Charlotte and Becky, because she's a former UFC fighter. She's used to taking heart, she's a big time name in the UFC world. And she's over in WWE now, where it's a performance. It's a lot different, but a lot more difficult in many ways too. So that match ended up, for the most part, being pretty epic. I was surprised how well it turned out. And then obviously if you watch the ending, it's kind of a slap in the face to a lot of us fans, because you can obviously tell Ronda should not have been pinned. Let's just say that. She should not have lost, technically. But we all got to see what we wanted to see, and that was Becky 2 belts. And there's so much history made that night that it didn't really matter. And what I want to say personally about all that was, I didn't realize until I was there midway. I think it was probably during when I was watching The Miz and Shane McMahon have their match, that it hit me that this is all meant for me. I just realized this is WrestleMania 35. I started watching during the road to WrestleMania 25. The 25th anniversary of WrestleMania. It just all of a sudden hit me. And I'm like, I belong here. Like, this all happened out of faith. And this shouldn't be happening. I shouldn't be sitting here in this crowd with a WWE Championship on my shoulder that I had bought with my own money, by myself, 10 years separated from when I started watching. I was 22. I was 22 years old. So I was 12 when I started. I'm 22 in the stands. And I'm kind of glad nobody else came with me that day. If it could have been, if there was any other pay-per-view, any other show, I'd have been more than happy to be with some other people. But this journey was meant for me, I feel. And it just all hit me like a ton of bricks. As I was sitting up there, I didn't get, my family wasn't into wrestling. I mean, they said in a previous video that they've, if they obviously knew I liked it, and then, but they weren't really fans themselves. My brother used to be a fan, but he was out of it by the time I started watching it. And so my sister my sister was probably the most supportive, if anything, but she didn't understand the business like I did. She didn't have the love and compassion for it like I do. I've grown up so much between those 10 years as a singles fan that, and my friend was gonna get to go with me. I got him to actually face me in a video game match where I was Edge, and no, he was Edge. I was Randy Orton, and defending Intercontinental Champion, and I ended up winning. Maybe that's why he didn't want to go, because I didn't let him win. I don't know, but either way, I just realized that this is much better. It was just me. And when the lights went out that night, I took a selfie of myself with the title belt on my shoulder. Right as the last flash of lights, flickered to close the show, I just happened to take that picture at the right time. So there's this big light behind me. I posted a reel and post featuring a collage of pictures of me and at WrestleMania 35 before posting this. So you can go on that and see what I'm talking about. I put that on there, and I let a little boy get to hold my replica title belt. His dad asked, and I let him, and he got to hold it, and he got to take a picture, and I felt really good about that. I got to give a kid his experience with a belt that I wish I had had. And leaving MetLife Stadium that night, 7.5 hours. 7.5 hours had passed between the time I was outside in line, the time the last flash of lights went off, and I took that selfie. 7.5 hours with the pre-show. And that ended up being the longest one night in WWE history. Especially as far as pay-per-views go. WrestleMania, so it's the longest WrestleMania ever. And some people were complaining about that. But I wasn't complaining. I was not complaining because this was 10 years of work that I pushed myself through to get there. With no support. I didn't have any friends growing up that also loved wrestling and then would watch it with me or play with me. I was always by myself. And so that was the most amount of championships were on the line that night because of the women's division with the added titles. I got to see two superstars of two of the greatest of all time, Batista and Kurt Angle, have their last WrestleMania matches and last matches since in general. And the timing of that, and me deciding to go to that show was so perfect, because after that, WrestleMania went into 2 nights, so that was the last single night of WrestleMania ever, and because of COVID, the next year, no fans were not allowed to attend WrestleMania. So, how lucky was I to decide out of a wing and a whim, to go to WrestleMania that year. I made it. I felt like I made it. Just like a lot of those WWE superstars have made it. Like AJ Styles. I felt like I was one of those guys just as a fan. Because I just felt so lucky that it was not planned. Like I said, I didn't even expect to go, really, even though I bought the tickets. Even though I bought 3 tickets. Just things like that don't happen to me. And so, and after 4 years before that of not watching, I thought I would never end up getting back into it again. I did. And, oh, man, that is the greatest night of my life so far. And leaving MetLife Stadium, I'm watching the crowd leave. Oh, I'm sorry. One more thing about that was that The Undertaker, for the first time, was not featured on the card since WrestleMania 2000, which is WrestleMania 16. That was the first time since that The Undertaker did not compete at WrestleMania. He did compete at WrestleMania 36, though, so that kind of, it kind of rubs me a little wrong, because I could have, and watching his Last Ride documentary, he was there. He just didn't decide to come out, I guess. So it's just a little bit, I get it. You just want to be a fan now. You just want to watch at that time. You want to take a break from the crowd. You don't want to be featured and take away spotlight of somebody. But I feel like if you're there, you should have at least done like a backstage thing where you say hi, rest in peace, something like that. Choke slam, tombstone somebody. I'm not saying you have to do that as like a career where I know you don't want to paradise yourself. I don't want you to ruin your career by paradising yourself. But if there's moments out there where you have the ability to do that and not let that affect your career, that would have been a night to do it. So we can at least saw you. But, I still love you, Undertaker. It would have been nice to see you that night. And leaving MetLife Stadium, it started raining and pouring, and the crowd ended up going underneath a bridge, and I was kind of scared. So I just realized I don't know how I'm going to get back to my hotel, because I didn't call the taxi, or I didn't let him. It's not like a taxi's going to know when I'm done. He's not going to wait for me outside until I'm done and be like, hey, you need a ride back? No. I had to finesse an Uber driver. It's embarrassing to say, but I think I ended up paying the Uber driver and ended up taking me back to my hotel $200. And the only reason he took me was because I had on Google Maps avoid highways on accident. I didn't even realize that, but it's like a 45-minute drive, it looked like on my map. So he's like, oh, I'm gonna make my money. So that's how I ended up getting home. Was I finessed an Uber driver $200 and an illusion that it was going to be a 45-minute drive back to my hotel when it was only 25. And so I ended up getting back to the hotel. I laid my championship belt on my bed. On the bed. Like, I would later find out that Chris Jericho did, and I think a number of superstars have done, I've heard of, where they lay their championship belt on their bed and in a celebratory fashion. And so I was not thinking of that at the time, but now when I was posting those pictures just a few moments ago, I was looking at that. I'm like, hey, it's kind of a coincidence, isn't it? I took a picture of my championship on a bed. I now know that's a number of superstars have done. Sorry. Excuse me. And I went to bed, woke up, flew back to Wisconsin the same way I went, the same way I came to Newark, back to Atlanta, and then back to MKE, Milwaukee. My mom picked me up in a Cadillac and drove me home. And I took many pictures with my replica championship belt. I did not get the, how to go kind of thing. My family was not very interested into hearing my time there. They're just like, okay, you're home now, great. And I mean, even if they did, I probably wouldn't have recognized it or shared too much because they don't love it like I do, so they don't know. I'm kind of very introverted, so it's hard to really express my feelings. And so it's been 5 years since then. And there's another time I'll talk about going to I've gone to 2 events since then that I'll later talk about, but for now I'm just going to focus on these Wrestlemania lists, my top 5 Wrestlemania list. Mucus full, sinuses, and neck. I know I didn't tear up much here because if I do, it won't look good. Say that, like I said, I'm congested. If I start crying, I won't be able to talk. So since WrestleMania 35, I have grown. Looking back on it, it was one of the most historical nights of WWE history. I'm glad to I got to be a part of it. Brock Lesnar, Ronda Rousey, Kofi Kingston, Daniel Bryan, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, Triple H, Batista, Baron Corbin, the Hardy Boys, Braun Strowman, you know, it's the Raw, the Smack, the Aleister Black and Ricochet, and the Women's Tag Team Championships. What a great night that was, overall. Thank you. This is Zechariah, the show. And this was my first try. I might try again later to make this better explanation, but that is my WrestleMania 35 story.